In 2018, I spent 3 months in Ecuador and I experienced 3 earthquakes. I was in Quito and it was very interesting. And here is what those earthquakes were like. The first one I experienced was in the morning. Actually, it woke me up. It was probably 6 or 7 a.m. Keep in mind, the sun in Ecuador rises at 6 a.m. every day and sets at 6 a.m. because it's on the equator. It woke me up and I felt the bed shaking. I was like, oh. I realized it wasn't me, it was everything was moving. It only lasted, 3 seconds or something like that. I took an Uber to my Spanish tutor's house. On the way, we were driving through the main business part of Quito, and on the right and left, everybody was outside. They had all left their offices. And I was like, what's going on? And the driver said, oh, it's like a coffee break. It's like an earthquake break. And he was saying that people don't want to go to work because they're worried that there's going to be another earthquake. And he's like, and they also don't really want to go back to work. So I thought that was kind of funny. So that was the first one. At my Spanish tutor, I asked her, like, well, what are the earthquakes and volcanoes like? And she was like, oh, yeah, we have several volcanoes. There's the main one that's right next to Quito. It goes off, every 20. And I said, well, is that like every 20 years or something? Or every 20,000 years, every 20 years? And she's like, no, it's like every 20 seconds. She was saying that like the volcano puts out a poof of gas or fumes every 20 seconds. But maybe that's kind of a good thing because it's active and it's not building that pressure. Second notable earthquake I experienced was I was in a different part of Quito. I was in the more northern part. And I was at my Airbnb I was staying at, and all of a sudden I hear these dogs barking. They're going crazy, and there's dogs everywhere. They're just going crazy. I was like, "What is going on?" And then I felt it. It felt the shaking. I was like, "Oh!" And that one was weird because the power turned off just for a couple seconds, and then it turned back on. I was like, "Whoa!" And so in that moment, I was really scared because I was like, "Is this really big?" And they had experienced one a couple of years before where buildings fell down and people died and all that sort of major stuff. The last earthquake I had was also kind of minor, just felt a little bit of shaking. The power didn't go off or anything, but it's kind of, whoa, it's like a really kind of weird, dizzy sensation. You're like, what's going on for a second? It takes you a second to realize, oh, that's an earthquake. Non-earthquake related though, some of my last weeks there, they had sort of power issues, and it was like every day for 4 hours or so, the power would go off. And I had asked, like, is this a normal thing? And they said, no, it's not normal. Like, other countries it's way more normal than it is in Quito or Ecuador. And the building had generators. So the power would go off, you lose about a minute, and then the generators would kick back on. But then, it's like on diesel, so it smelled really bad. And that meant that all the other places nearby didn't have power, so you couldn't go to restaurants. So now you know what it's like to experience an earthquake in Ecuador. They've had different experiences. They've had mudslides and different things like that. Earthquakes are definitely a normal part of living in Ecuador. Most aren't extremely dangerous. They're just kind of everyday things. There are some that are very dangerous that can kill people. So just make sure you are in a safe environment, that you know the proper earthquake safety protocols, and to stay safe.